It was absolutely the most terrifying experience of my 72 years. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. I gunned the car. When I saw what it was, I went about 2,000 yards or something, and I hit the brakes, kind of like, okay, this didn't just happen, right? And I looked out the back window, and again, that red light was lighting up the trees, and I was like, oh my God.
No one wants to be the UFO guy, because it can affect your professional career, all that. It's weird. It's weird being that guy. No one wants to be that guy. So I was living with my parents. I would occasionally drive my brother to work. That's the reason I saw this. Hop in the car, pick him up. We drive to his work. It's like, I would say like 3:05 at that point. I get there, drop him off, and hop on the highway. On US 23, there's a landfill off to the left if you're going south. I just get blinded by bright lights that are super low, I could tell. And as I'm getting closer, it's getting bigger. I'm slowing down. Last time I looked at the speedometer, it was 20. I suspect I was going like 15 when I was getting up close to it. I rolled down my window, and it was silent. I could hear, the only thing I heard was the tires on the pavement. And looked right up at it, and it was right there. I was able to see 3 points of light in each corner. In the middle, there was this big red light, and then there was lines that I would describe as alien. I usually leave this out depending on who I'm talking to. They, or whatever it was, said, the only way I can describe it is just telepathically, that you are not supposed to be here. I know it wasn't just a voice in my own head. When I was maybe half a mile away, I looked in my rear view to see if I could still see it. And I could see it. It was right there, right over the trees, and I could see the red light shining, illuminating the tops of the trees. But I just went home. That was that, and then I was left alone, like wondering what the hell happened. I learned for UFO experiencers how lonely it can be. I mean, other than being right next to the triangle, like one of the other craziest things that's ever happened to me was finding Guy.
In 1994, during a big UFO flap here in Michigan, in the month of March, barely above an interstate freeway, I saw a gigantic triangular UFO just south of Flint, Michigan. It had 3 white lights on each tip of the triangle. The bottom had a really odd pattern of, it looked like interlocking L's or something, just a strange texture pattern thing. There was a huge red light in the middle that was pulsating like a heart, just throbbing, kind of whoop, whoop, and it was lighting up all the trees. I thought it was an airplane landing, is what I thought. But when I finally could see the lights clearly about a mile away, I realized they were indistinct. The white lights had almost a haze around them. And I saw what it was, and it was just a huge, silent, gigantic, completely immobile, flying apple turnover. I mean, it was just this probably 200 foot by 200 foot by 200 foot. It was a triangle. It was the craziest thing I have ever seen, and I almost had a coronary.
It was 5 in the morning, but there was traffic, and nobody else is even hitting their brakes. There should have been chaos on this freeway. Cars should have been, nobody's even slowing down but me. As I approached it, I swear to you, and this sounds, just daffy, but I kept getting this thing, you're not supposed to be here, you're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, What is this, you know?
So I called my brother, because he was the only one up that I knew would be able to answer. Told him the story. Didn't really have much to say. He believes me 100%, but it's like, okay, now what? Because, you know, he didn't see anything. In his mind, he goes back to work. He's like, wow, that was crazy, I'm sure. And then I'm just, you know, ruined.
I recall my mom was kind of just, and her and I were very close, but she didn't have much of a reaction. Well, what do you say to this? I mean, I've often wondered what she thought, because she knew, her and I were so close, and I'm like, I saw a damn spaceship. It was barely above my car. As far as my, you know, my psyche, my emotion, it was a terribly draining thing and upsetting thing.
I was, you know, struggling for like a year plus, because this was like a year after my sighting until I found Guy. Just trying to find anybody or just trying to relate to anybody. I did not want to come here. You know, if it wasn't for Guy, like I definitely wouldn't be talking about this.
When this finally is revealed, what's going to be more shocking is the number of people, I'm sure people that you know and everybody knows, that are going to step forward and say, well, you know, I had to, you know, I got abducted or what, but, you know, I didn't want to see, you know, it's, nobody wants to ruin their lives, basically. No.
One night we were talking, I was like, you know, I'm going to look this up again. And I was just looking for triangles in the area. And I saw a post from 2023. And it goes on to describe driving northbound on 23 and sees the same exact thing. Describes seeing a triangle. People will look at that sighting, they'll read it, they might notice the almost cartoonish drawings of the aliens. I think that jumps out at people first. It's so crazy from the outside, it would just be silly, but to me, it's just like, holy shit. I'm led to assume that that's what they look like. Like, I mean, I know how crude that drawing is, but what I noticed first was the key off to the side that showed the landfill. That blew me away, because that's exactly how I tell my story. That's how I describe it to people. It's like, do you know that landfill right off 23? And Guy, you know, when I found it and showed it to him, you know, we both freaked out, because we're like, this is just, you know, another nail in the coffin. The more we look into this, every just little bit, just more and more information comes out. It almost seems too good to be true. And I know that's why Guy didn't want to show you. He's like, I don't think this looks good for us. And it's just like, you know, maybe, but it's the truth. So I chose to share it.
Yeah, of course I'm looking for the truth. I'd love to know what was driving that thing. Yeah, wouldn't you want to know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'd love to have a clue, but I don't. Us from the future, beings that live in the oceans, interplanetary beings. They're from another dimension. They're us from the past. I've heard. Who knows? What is there in life but truth? What is there? If we're not honest with each other, we have this empty thing. We have this empty relationship. What have we got as a community of beings if we lie to each other?